Check it out.
Hey, check it out. I have my old SONY TC-377 reel-to-reel tape player here. I was transferring some tapes from reel-to-reel to digital using a simple cord. Just taking the RCA audio out. It's over here. Plug it into a digital recorder. It was working great until it wasn't. The speed, all of a sudden, I noticed was going slower. It was a very long recording. It was recording at the slowest speed, which is 1 7/8 inches per second. So that's as slow as it goes. That's a standard slow speed. And I was listening, and it sounded really slow. So I assumed that the recording had been done at two different speeds. And in diagnosing that, I was doing a rewind, and it was rewinding, and then it stopped rewinding kind of in the middle. So something else is going on with this. So I need to open this up and diagnose it. So there are 4 screws that hold this in. This whole piece will come out. So let's take those screws out and take a look at what we have behind the scenes here. All right, this is what it looks like on the inside. And what happens when I turn it on is basically nothing. That's what should happen, because this particular machine has an interesting feature to it, that if a tape isn't in place over the heads, that nothing comes on. So I'm going to pretend that there's a tape in place here by tripping that right here. All right. Not much happened. I mean, the motor moved a little bit and then stopped. So a couple different things could be going on here. Let me turn the power back off. Either the motor's gone bad, or somehow something in this circuitry getting power to the motor has gone bad. This is going to be my suspect right here. This is a capacitor. This is a run capacitor that helps convert and make magic happen so that the motor will work correctly. I'm assuming that this has gone bad. I've done a little bit of testing on it, and as far as I can tell, it's not doing capacitance stuff like it should be. So what I've done is I've ordered a replacement. I found something similar, not exactly the same. The one that I found that was exactly the same was on eBay, and it had already been sold, so not available. All right, so here we go. I bought this through DigiKey. I've purchased things through them before. They're a electronics wholesaler. You can buy 1, you can buy 100. So here we have a capacitor. It's 1.5 microfarads, which is what this is. It's an AC, so it should be compatible or equivalent to what's in here. So with fingers crossed, the next step is to desolder these connections, connect it up to the new capacitor, and see if our motor runs. Before I do anything with this, I made sure to unplug it. Never work on equipment that's opened up like this, that has electricity flowing through it. You will regret it. Unplug it. Even though I suspect the capacitor, it's a good idea to do some testing on it as well. One way to do that is if you have a multimeter with a capacitor testing option, use that. My cheapo one does not have that. So what I'm going to do is test out its resistance. So with an open circuit, we can get this up here. This shows 0L or OL, meaning it's an open. Now if I connect my 2 leads together, that should then go to 0. On a capacitor, if I touch those together, first I'm going to make sure this is discharged. So I'll just put something across there, make sure it's discharged. The resistance should change. So it should go from no resistance, it should build. It should build. I'm getting zero resistance, it's not changing. So that's a sign that this capacitor is not working correctly. If we take our new capacitor and do the same test, we'll see that it goes from 0, the numbers climb, and then it becomes open. That's how a capacitor should react. And we know our new one is good. We have a good idea the old one is bad. So this wasn't just a blind guess. There was some testing involved for thinking that it was the capacitor. Let's get this desoldered now and see how that reacts. So I've got my soldering iron out, and we'll get this fired up, and we will desolder these two wires. Actually, there's 3 wires. There's 2 blacks going to this side, and then the orange going over here. Get those desoldered, get the new cap on there. See if this works. Okay, we've got the power on, and this should make the motor go. Yes, that's what we want to see. Okay, power off. So replacing the cap, got our motor working again. Let's get this all tidied up and reassembled and see if we can play some tapes. Here's the tape that I really wanted to digitize again. I did this years ago, and with an older machine that I had, the speed wasn't quite good. And after I recorded it, I digitally had to modify it to get the sound about correct. What this tape is something that my dad taped back in 1969. He hooked up our TV to his reel-to-reel and recorded a bunch of audio from the first man landing on the moon. He recorded 1 track at a time. So track 1, you flip it over, then you go track 1 on the other side, flip it over again, then you switch track 2, or the right side, flip it over, track 2 again. So this essentially is the equivalent of 2 full tapes of stuff. He recorded this at the 1 7/8 speed, and looking at 1 track at 1 7/8 for a 900-foot tape. So looking at the recording in one direction, if we do 1 mono track at 1 7/8, we get an hour and a half. So essentially this has 6 hours worth of recording on it. So it's 1.5 hours on 1 track, flip it over, another hour and a half, flip it over, another hour and a half after swapping channels, and then flip it 1 more time to get another hour and a half. Let's see if we can get this tape loaded up, and hopefully it will play. Now that we have the motor working again. So we'll get the tape loaded on here. I like this new machine. It has these little, on the little stand here that hold the tape in place. You pull them out and twist them slightly, and that holds the reel on the machine. And it turns out somehow that this tape, or this reel is backwards. So it says side 1, and what I'm really getting is the second and fourth sides. You want to think of it that way. Help if we plug it in too. Won't run without power. Let's see if she'll go. Why aren't you going? Because you're too loose. Okay, there it goes. Let's see if we can, I'll get my headphones plugged in here so we can hear what's going on. Now what we typically would do is we would turn off the right channel. So we just get left channel. I guess we'll listen to the right channel since there's something going on there. But when I record this, I will actually record both channels at the same time, and then I will digitally separate those two into the separate tracks. That way I only have to run through the tape twice. But this is really great. I'm glad that the machine is working again. Okay, so this is really good. I've got the new capacitor in here. The machine seems to be working as it should. The audio is coming through nicely. I'll be able to record this tape again. Having just a little bit of knowledge about electronics can really help you out with older equipment, especially. Knowing that capacitors can go bad. I don't know if you can really see this, but it's swelled up, which tells me it's like, yeah, this capacitor has probably gone bad. Testing it showed that it was bad. Taking the important information, the 1.5 microfarad and at least 250 watt volt AC. I'm not sure if that's watt volt, WV. Anyway, we've got volts AC, and make sure that you get a capacitor that's comparable. So I got one that was 1.5 microfarads. It's a tighter tolerance. It's a 5%, and it's a 400 VAC. So it's a higher capacity capacitor, and it's working fantastic for us. Check it out.